Did you know that how you speak to yourself, your self-talk, the words that you use in your own head can actually have a really profound effect on not just how you feel emotionally and psychologically, but also how your brain and body conduct themselves physically? Hey, Ben Aarons here, co-founder of Reorigin, where we teach you how to retrain your brain to reclaim your health. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the role of self-talk and use 5 language hacks that you can do to subtly tweak our internal dialogue and help yourself to feel more resourced. Now, oftentimes we might experience that we're feeling overwhelmed or consumed by certain situations or events that are happening in our lives. And this is a normal sensation, but when we find that we're stuck perpetually in a state of anxiety or depression or overwhelm, oftentimes what that can be a result of is that there's a misalignment between our perceived abilities, that's to say our perceived resources, and the demands that we perceive are coming our way. So when we perceive that there's this high level of demands coming at us from the world, but we only have limited resources to meet those demands, the wider the gap between the two, the more stretched, overwhelmed, and anxious we often find that we feel. Now, Carol Dweck did some really interesting research in this department and wrote a very famous book about the growth mindset. She was really the first person to talk about and deeply study something known as the growth versus the fixed mindset. And I've made a previous video on the growth and fixed mindset, and there's lots of other videos that talk about it, but for our purposes here, just note that the growth mindset is one where we feel flexible, where we feel resourced, where we feel like we're actually able to go out, make changes to ourselves and our environment, and basically meet the demands that might come our way. Conversely, when we find ourselves feeling stuck, feeling stagnant, we're oftentimes in that fixed mindset. So one of the ways we can start to shift from the fixed to the growth mindset, we can start to feel more resourced and have more energy, and also start to reduce or lower the perception of the demands that are coming our way, is through the language that we use to conduct our own internal dialogue. So here are 5 of my favorite quick language hacks that you can start using right away to shift yourself out of overwhelm and into a state of feeling resourced and powerful. Okay, this first language hack is great to use whenever we find ourselves turning our attention toward, say, how far we might have to go with something, a project or personal development, versus looking at how far we've already come. When we find ourselves in this situation, let's say it's, oh, I have so far to go to recover, or I'll never get there, or I'm not there now. A simple thing that we can do is simply add the word yet. So if we find ourselves saying something to ourselves like, oh, I'm not feeling well, or I'm not sleeping well, or something that's kind of a statement about how we are, that's in some sense lacking a bigger perspective, by adding the word yet to the end. So maybe, I'm not feeling at my best yet, or I'm not feeling better yet, right? Or I'm not sleeping well yet. Simply adding that word yet can really broaden our mind and get us into that growth mindset where all of a sudden we realize, oh, okay, sure, this might be a reality right now in this moment, but it needn't stay that way. In fact, it reminds us that everything is transient, everything is changing, nothing is truly stuck in life, everything is in transition. And next, you can be the one who directs that transition or where that transition takes us. A second language hack that we can use to help ourselves to feel a little bit more resourced is prefacing certain statements where we might have previously said, what if, like, what if I get sick again? Or what if I miss my flight? To even if. So simply changing out the what if to an even if can dramatically shift our perception of our own capabilities, right? We can say, even if I get sick again, I know that I have the resources to get back on track or to regain my health. Even if I miss my flight, I know that I'll enjoy the journey wherever it may lead. So I invite you to try this. Whenever you find yourself saying, oh, what if, and it's usually followed by a worry, try and swap that out for even if, and then say an affirmative statement, or think of, even if this happened, what is it that I can do using my own internal resources or resourcefulness to not only make this situation improved, but also maybe even make it into something fun and positive. Even if I miss my flight, I'm ready and willing and happy to go along for whatever adventure awaits. Okay, the next one is changing the phrase got to into get to. right? So here, it's so common for ourselves, especially around this time of year, New Year's resolution time, where we start to pile things on our to-do lists, on our resolutions lists, what our expectations of ourselves, and we start to feel like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do so many different things. And instead of saying got to, we can actually say I get to. So of course, it sometimes helps to limit the number of things that we impose upon ourselves, but for those things that might really be important to us, it can be really helpful to say, I get to do this. When we're faced with some challenge, maybe it's just run-of-the-mill stuff like answering a lot of emails for work, we can say, you know what, I get to do this because I'm employed, I have a job, I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm here, right? This is an opportunity for me to show up and move forward in a certain way with something that I might not otherwise have the opportunity to do. So simply changing our got to from that sort of pressure implied statement to I get to this opportunistic type of statement can start to shift our mind from seeing things in the environment as obstacles to seeing them as opportunities for simply being alive and engaging with the process of life, whatever it might require from us at times. Okay, the next one, the fourth one, is something that you've probably heard before, but I'll say it here because it's so simple and so impactful. And this is changing our mindset from to me to for me, right? So the classic example here is that sometimes when things get overwhelming, it's easy to feel like life is happening to me. But by reminding ourselves that actually life is happening for me, this gives us that sense of empowerment that actually everything is in flux. Again, going back to that growth mindset, everything is a process. And even though it doesn't always feel comfortable, it doesn't always feel comforting, it is all putting me on the path to growth. It is all putting me on the path to becoming something more than what I am now. It's not to say that what we are at the moment isn't totally enough, totally sufficient, but evolution is in our nature. One of the reasons that I believe we're here is to evolve ourselves continuously to a higher level. And this is completely compatible with fully accepting where we are right now. It just implies that we accept where we are with deep sense of compassion while at the same time acknowledging that everything that's happening is really happening for us to help us move forward and become and realize our full potential. And lastly, the fifth one, which is probably my favorite one because it's so simple. I think I probably said that about each of these, but this one is just so simple, so easy to do. We often forget it, but when we do it, it is so impactful. It's simply saying the statement, I got this. I like to do this out loud. I'll do this several times a day. If at any point I'm feeling overwhelmed with something, which yes, of course, still sometimes happens, I will just take a step back, take a deep breath, maybe even make a fist and say, I've got this. And that fist, that reminder, that little flex that you can do for yourself just puts you back in the driver's seat. It puts you in this empowered state where you are now the one who has got this. You've got the resources, you've got the control. And here's a secret. Sometimes we don't have all of the answers or all of the resources, but what you do have is resourcefulness. If you've found your way here to this channel, if you're watching this video, it simply shows that you are a resourceful person. You have the willingness and the curiosity to go out and seek solutions and seek new answers. So these are things that you can try. Let me know your experience, or most importantly, what I love is when people leave comments of further suggestions. So if there's any additional language tweaks or hacks that you've benefited from that you really like, please share those in the comments below. That will create this growing resource that we all have here in this community to pull from more of these kinds of statements that can help us to feel more empowered and move forward with a sense of confidence and control. All right, I'll leave it at that, and I'll look forward to seeing you in a future video.